Death Valley National Park is hands down one of the most underrated and misunderstood places in the country. That's a bold take considering it gets over 1 million visitors per year and is generally pretty popular with hikers online, but honestly I had fairly low expectations going into this trip and they were blown away by Death Valley's landscapes and hikes and just everything about this place. We can't wait to bring you this ultimate itinerary and guide to Death Valley National Park to help you plan your trip there so you can go see just how awesome this place is. We're Jack and Jordan and we aim to help you travel smarter, not harder, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video for more. Death Valley is located just 2 hours away from Las Vegas, Nevada, which makes it super easy to visit. We were already on a trip to Vegas, and on the last day of our trip, we went to the airport, rented a car, and drove the 2 hours to get to the national park. We stayed one night there, which gave us essentially 2 full days in the park, which I believe is enough to see the main attractions. The best part about Death Valley is that all of the main attractions are off of a couple main roads. Once you make it to Furnace Creek, which is kind of the centerpiece of the park, there's nothing in this video that is over 60 minutes away, making it really easy to hit a bunch of spots all in one day. We stayed at the ranch at Death Valley and it was perfect. It was a little expensive, but we had travel credit from Capital One, which you can learn about in this video here. If you're looking into visiting Death Valley, you probably already know this, but it gets extremely hot. It actually set the record for the hottest place on Earth with a temperature of 137 degrees Fahrenheit. I wouldn't even recommend considering traveling here for the months of June through August. Death Valley has 4 primary options of places to stay within the park. One of them is a lot further than the others, and that's Panamint Springs Resort, so I won't be talking about it in this video, but I'll be focusing on the ranch at Death Valley, the inn at Death Valley, and then Stovepipe Wells. The ranch is where we stayed, and like I said, I absolutely loved it. The grounds here are beautiful. It's like a desert oasis. There's a bunch of restaurants, including an ice cream parlor, a sports bar, a sit-down restaurant, a cafe, a general store. There's just so much to do, and it has amenities like tennis courts and basketball courts. There are cottages and motel-style rooms, and the rooms are adequate. They're nothing special, but they get the job done, and you're really staying here for the grounds. The inn at Death Valley is the first lodge here, built back in 1927. It definitely has a classic feel and it is very upscale, but it's also twice the price of the ranch at Death Valley, and I don't think it's that much nicer, so I'd probably stay at the ranch. Finally, about 20 minutes north of these in the Stovepipe Wells area is the Stovepipe Wells Lodge. This is the cheapest option in the park, starting at around $140 a night. So if you're just looking for a place to stay, I would recommend staying here, but if you want some more amenities, then the ranch is the best place to go. Now for our itinerary. We left Las Vegas at 7:30 a.m. after picking up our rental car and drove to the town of Pahrump. This will be the southern route to get to Death Valley. You can go through the north or the south. I recommend taking the southern route there and the northern route home, which I'll get into a little bit later. Pahrump is the last town you'll reach that has gas stations and food options, so if you're hungry or you need to get gas, get it here. From Pahrump, it's another hour to get to Death Valley, and then once you're in, you'll want to go to the Furnace Creek area because you'll have to pick up your pass. It's $30 for admission, and if you're just driving around, they technically don't regulate that, so you don't have to buy one. But if you're gonna hike and park your car at any point, you do have to buy a pass and put it on your windshield. The visitor center does have water and Gatorade, so you can stock up on that here, which is what we did, use the bathroom, and then get on the road to the Mesquite Flat Sand Dunes. Once you drive from Furnace Creek to the sand dunes, they just kind of pop up out of nowhere. If you want to get out of your car and go climb on them, I would budget at least an hour here. We tried to make it to the furthest dune, and if we had made it there, we would have definitely been here for 2 hours. You kind of don't really get a sense of just how far away and how big the sand dunes are. When we were climbing on them, we made it about halfway there and turned around and we're like, yeah, I don't think we're gonna have the time to do this. But we still got some really cool shots and had a great time here. One thing to note is that if you want to sled down the dunes, like I saw a lot of families doing, there is no place to buy or rent a sled in the park, so you'll have to do that before you come. Next up, we drove to Mosaic Canyon, which is about a 15-minute drive from Mesquite Flat Sand Dunes. It's worth noting that it's a dirt and gravel road to get here. The Mosaic Canyon was surprisingly one of our favorite spots in the park. Looking up pictures online, I wasn't really that excited about it, but it was highly rated on AllTrails, so I figured we'd check it out anyways. The hike is 2 miles out and back, so 4 miles round trip, but the best part is that you can really turn around at any point that you want. The scenery does kind of change the route, so if you want to get the full landscape, I would recommend doing the 4 miles. After Mosaic Canyon, we drove to Artist Drive to see Artist Palette. This is the only part of the trip that will take a little bit of time. It's about an hour to go from Mosaic Canyon all the way down to Artist Drive. You turn onto Badwater Road after passing the Furnace Creek area, and you can actually take this all the way to Badwater Basin, one of the other popular spots in the park. It's really easy to combine Badwater Basin and Artist Drive, and I'd recommend doing that if you have the time. Artist Palette is one of the most Instagram spots in the park, and that's for a reason. You can see the pink and blue and green rocks shine in the sunlight, and once again, the videos just don't do it justice. It's so cool. It's also worth noting that Artist Palette does have a parking lot right in front of the best part. We didn't see this parking lot and got really excited and got out of our car about half a mile too early and ended up having to hike through and above canyons, and it was kind of a process. So if you're kind of short on time, don't park too early like we did. After checking into the ranch at Death Valley around 3:30, we drove to Dauntes View for sunset. The drive to Dauntes View is about 35 minutes from the ranch at Death Valley, but beware, parking is really scarce, which is why we got there so early, and I'm glad we did because it did take us a while to find a spot. It was cold. The wind gusts were unlike anything I have ever felt. I don't know what it is about the wind at Dauntes View. It's 5,500 feet high, looking down at negative 282 feet below, so that probably has something to do with it, but it doesn't matter. It's one of the coolest views I've seen and definitely worth doing. You can watch the sun light up the Panamint Mountains looking over Badwater Basin, and seeing it go completely dark during the process of being up there was just such a cool experience. If you're unable to make it up to Dauntes View, I'd highly recommend just taking a drive during the sunset here, getting to watch the colors change on the mountains during our drive from red to purple to black. It was so cool and it gave us some of our best content. We went back to the ranch and got dinner at the Ice Cream Parlor, which was our favorite restaurant that we tried while we were there. Their burger's really good, don't sleep on it, and get the cookies and cream ice cream. After that, we went to Badwater Basin to stargaze. We drove out to the flats at around 8:30 to 9 p.m., and that was the perfect time to go. When you step out onto the salt flats, it just gets pitch black. You can only see 3 feet in front of you, and truthfully, the only light you have is the stars, and they are so impressive. Make sure you know how far you're walking because it might be hard to find your way back. I do think in hindsight, it would have been nice to see during the day. We went to the Mesquite Flat Sand Dunes during the day, Badwater Basin at night, but you could definitely do the opposite. The final place we went on our short trip to Death Valley was Zabriske Point, and it's the most popular spot in the park to watch the sunrise for a good reason. We woke up at 6 a.m. to go see the sunrise there and got there at about 6:30. Like I said, that's one of the best parts of Death Valley is nothing is far from each other. It was only a 10-minute drive from the ranch to Zabriske Point, so it kind of saved us a little bit of sleep there. During the sunrise, you can definitely see the process that it undergoes. At first, you'll see Zabriske go from purple to yellow, and then in the background, you'll be able to see the Panamint Mountains start to glow red in a way, and eventually, if you stay for long enough, the sun will hit the Red Cathedral and light that up as well. Zabriske overlooks rolling Badlands and a couple of landmarks known as Manly Beacon and Red Cathedral. Now, there are a couple ways to hike to the main attractions, the Manly Beacon and the Red Cathedral. The first and shortest option is to drive from Zabriske Point to Golden Canyon. It's only about 10 minutes, it's just on the other side of the Badlands. From there, it's a 3-mile hike to start at Golden Canyon and hike to Red Cathedral. This is the shortest way to do it and probably the easiest as well since the elevation isn't as steep. Getting to the Red Cathedral from Zabriske Point is also possible. It's about 4 to 5 miles. You'll start at Zabriske, you'll have a steep elevation decline, you'll walk through some of the Badlands, and then eventually when you get to Red Cathedral, you'll turn back, go past Manly Beacon, and then you'll have to hike all the way back up Zabriske Point, so you're kind of saving the hardest part for the end. Another hike you can do, which is what we did, was Badlands Loop. Once again, you'll start at Zabriske Point, and this is only 2.8 miles, so it's the shortest option, and if you're short on time, I'd recommend doing this. It's also the most unique in my opinion. Red Cathedral is very cool, but there are plenty of big red sandstone cliffs that you could find in Arizona or Utah. Badlands are not found in many other national parks or places, besides the obvious Badlands National Park in South Dakota. One thing we were not able to do was drive to the Ubehebe Crater. It's about an hour from the Furnace Creek area. This is something that if you took an extra day at the park, I would highly recommend doing and almost put it at the top of your list. Ubehebe Crater is a 600-foot deep crater that you can hike around, and it's an old volcanic area. We actually ended up driving back to Las Vegas and on the way through the northern route going to the Lee Canyon ski area. Yeah, believe it or not, there is skiing about 50 minutes from Las Vegas, Nevada. The experience of being able to go from negative 182 feet at our hotel up to 10,000 feet of elevation at the ski area and then back down to Vegas after is just something that you're not going to get in any state other than Nevada, which is why I think it's one of the most underrated travel destinations in the US. We loved every second of visiting Death Valley. I was very skeptical because of the hype that I had seen online, but now here I am passing the hype on to y'all, just telling you, trust me, it's so cool and it's worth booking a trip to. You can use the link in the description below to help plan your trip. It's the ultimate itinerary for Death Valley. It includes most of the things I talked about in this video, but also some extra pieces of information as well, and a complete guide to where to stay, where to hike, and where to eat. Be sure to subscribe and like this video if you want to learn how to travel smarter, not harder, and be sure to follow us on all of our social media, TikTok and Instagram.